Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be discussing the Tesla case study. We'll be doing an internal, external, and corporate and business analysis. We'll start off with external, focusing on the PESTEL framework. So the framework really just helps us analyze external factors on a firm and then determine if they are a threat for competitive advantage or if they actually create an opportunity for the firm. So we've seen in previous years that the government would provide tax credits for consumers who purchase EVs, but what we're seeing now is governments around the world are actually giving emission credits to companies who develop electric vehicles. Obviously, this is a huge win for Tesla, allowing them to rake in over 518 million in the first quarter of this year. As for economic factors, we all know that COVID had some detrimental effects on supply chain issues, and then it also decreased the overall consumption of vehicles, electric or not. We also see product cannibalization, which affects industry sales. With Tesla, when they released their Model 3, we saw that the sales of the Model S and X actually declined. Luckily, Tesla was proactive and they're now releasing their Cybertruck. This is in hopes, that their uniqueness is going to decline some of that direct cannibalization that we see. As for sociocultural factors, we're seeing an increase in overall demand for sustainable energy products, and the popularity is rising within all income groups. This is, again, a great opportunity for Tesla because they do offer models for all types of budgets and consumers. So Tesla is an industry leader when it comes to rapid technological advances. We see the increase in AI in the automobile industry, but Tesla is the leader for their unique over-the-air software updates. Tesla was created with a focus on creating a vision for sustainable transport. This ties in with their technological and sociocultural factors as well, constantly allowing them to develop more eco-friendly alternatives to the internal combustion engines. And then lastly, on a legal standpoint, we're seeing many new laws regarding EVs. Biden has set a goal of 50% of sales by 2030 to be electric vehicles. And China actually recently imposed a mandate that 40% of all automobile sales must be electric by 2030.
Hi, everyone. I'm Clint. I'm here to walk you through part of the external analysis, and we're going to move into Porter's 5 forces. The first up is start of entry. In this space, economies of scale, product differentiation, capital requirements all play a really big part in terms of a barrier to entry to the industry. Compared to the industry, Tesla has several advantages. They've invested several $billion in infrastructure. They enjoy a leadership position within the market due to available capital and vertical integration. In terms of differentiation, there's two primary types of vehicles in this space. The first is electric vehicles. The second is plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. They use an internal combustion engine for things like acceleration. Capital requirements are very big. It's in the billions. That number is driven by research, engineering, plant facility space. Start of entry continued. Cost advantages, disadvantages, regardless of size. Tesla's approach to this is to buy, build manufacturing facilities, which gets back to vertical integration. Access to distribution channels. Tesla's response to this is actually pretty interesting. They have eliminated the middleman by choosing to sell online. They've got a website. No showrooms, no dealers, got a website. So if you want to order one, it's price as seen, no haggle price policy. Government policy. Tax incentives for these vehicles have begun to shrink a little bit. They're still in play, but they are getting smaller. The Chinese government, for example, invested more money in the incentives offered in China than anyone else in the world. But even they're starting to reduce these incentives to both manufacturers and consumers or purchasers of the vehicles. China has mandated that by 2030, 40% of all vehicles sold in China will be electric. A similar policy is expected to follow in the US, and other policies are in play around the world, specifically Europe and South America. The power of suppliers and the power of buyers. Suppliers exert an enormous amount of power or influence in the industry, and that's because for those companies that aren't vertically integrated, they have to buy their batteries, they have to have someone build their manufacturing facilities, or they have to rent space from existing people that already have these facilities. And then, of course, sales and distribution. Power of buyers. Buyers are unwilling right now to really go all in on electric vehicles. One reason for that is that they're a little expensive, relatively speaking. You also need additional infrastructure in your home to recharge. Some people are, in addition to those reasons, a little unsure about the range limitation of electric vehicles, although that's improving rapidly. Threat of substitutes. Cars that have an internal combustion engine is kind of the most obvious one. Mass transit, trains and buses. And then, of course, working from home. I don't know about you guys, but in the last couple of years, I've predominantly just worked from home. Only recently have I gone back into the office, and that was after over a year and a half. Rivalry among existing competitors. Many well-known car companies are entering this space. Big players, Ford, GM, Toyota, Dodge, Honda, etc. Some of the newer ones you may not know of them. You know, everyone knows about Tesla, but how about Rivian and Fisker? You know, they're young companies, relatively speaking. They're app supporters. We want to talk a little bit about the group analysis model. Who are the players and how do they compete? We've decided to group them by perceived luxury and price. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see some of the who's who of top of the line car manufacturers. Tesla, Porsche, Audi, Lexus, BMW. On the bottom left, they compete in a much more modest space. Kia, Hyundai, and a lot of miscellaneous Chinese brands that are really new to the market. They've taken advantage of the incentives that are available, and as a result, they're now gaining traction in places like China. But that's how we decided to group the folks from an industry perspective. I'll pass it off now to one of my teammates, and I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
I'm Hannah. I'm doing the internal analysis for Tesla. For resources, capabilities, and competencies, they have over 23.3 billion in net property and plant and equipment. That includes their 4 gigafactories and over 400 showrooms. They have over 3,000 patents and a reputation that makes them a household name. Their capabilities include design and industrial engineering, as well as software development, supply chain management, and leadership. Their resources and capabilities come together to form their competencies. For example, their reputation, as well as their leadership, creates their brand loyalty. They also have the ability to design and build high-end all-electric vehicles, design high-end software, and vertically integrate their company. We chose a few of those to analyze in a VRIO analysis, the first being intellectual property. It's valuable, rare, and costly to imitate because their patents protect them from being copied, and it's also costly to imitate because there are repercussions if they do. They're organized to capture the value because they are currently using 2,000 of their 3,000 patents actively. For their supply chain, it's valuable because they're able to completely vertically integrate it, and it's rare because many automotive companies outsource many of their functions. It's costly to imitate because they have many factories, many showrooms, and many equipment that is needed to vertically integrate a company, and they're organized to capture the value because they've been able to copy one gigafactory and implement it around the world with those 4 gigafactories we mentioned earlier. Their product is valuable, it's very unique, and we think that it's definitely creating value for the company. However, we don't believe it's rare because part of being rare is not having readily substitutions. And at the end of the day, their product is a means of transportation. So whether that be a public transportation like a bus or even the gas vehicles, there's many substitutions readily available, as well as many companies moving into the electric vehicle market. It's also not costly to imitate because many companies are creating their own electric vehicles. So while it may seem very expensive and costly to us, many competitors are succeeding in creating vehicles similar to theirs. So that kind of defeats the rare and costly to imitate. Overall, we do think they have many competitive advantages, but we do believe the product is a competitive parity. We do, however, think that they are set up for long-term success with their other advantages.
Now for the business level strategy of Tesla Motors. So Tesla entered the market as differentiation strategy, where they're aiming to perform similar tasks differently than the competition that was already out there. They were looking to make an electric autonomous vehicle that would differentiate itself from Chevy, Ford, Honda, whatever else was out there. They found their market in that the customer that was willing to pay a bit more for this product due to the trade-offs of not having to pay gas, the car would be self-driving, the entertainment that came with the car, the status of owning the car, all those things that your typical Tesla owner fulfills. Thus, this differentiation strategy kind of turned into a focused differentiation strategy where their target demographic was these consumers who are willing to pay a premium for these high performance vehicles and environmentally friendly vehicles. The threat of entry into this consumer base is moderate. It's tough for new competitors. We're seeing it a little bit with Rivian to break in, but it's easier for these established competitors, the Fords, the Chevys, the Toyotas, the Hyundais, to come in and kind of leech on the market. These established builders or these established automobile makers can transition into the electric vehicle market, which is why it's a moderate threat of entry. The power suppliers is also moderate. As we'll touch on in a little bit, Tesla is exceptionally vertically integrated. That said, their production is still limited compared to other competitors in the industry, and Tesla is still dependent upon its suppliers. Power of buyers, threat of substitutes, and rivalry among existing competitors is all low. The buyers are all set by Tesla's market. They don't negotiate. Whatever the car costs is what the car costs. Threat of substitute, yes, you could say these consumers could ride public transportation, they could ride a bike, whatever it might be, but ultimately the threat of substitutes is low for Tesla. And the rivalry among existing competitors as it is now is low, just due to the fact that not many of the current automobile makers are making that luxury all-electric vehicle. As technology improves, all of these are moving towards moderate. As competition increases, power of buyers, threat of substitutes, and rivalry among existing competitors all increases. In addition to how they started off as a differentiation strategy, they also started off using disruptive innovation. This electric vehicle market was still new. All electric vehicles was new. They were trying to take a new technology and have a high impact on the market. That said, as the technology becomes more the norm, they are moving towards an incremental innovation strategy where it becomes normal for these electric cars and things aren't going to grow as quickly. If in a way the business will plateau. We haven't reached that point yet, but it's definitely on the horizon for Tesla as well as the other electric vehicle makers. Now, moving on to Tesla's corporate level strategy, like I touched on earlier, Tesla is exceptionally vertically integrated. Right now, they handle everything from the building of the automobiles through the sales, through the aftermarket support. That being said, Elon wants to be fully vertically integrated. He wants to control everything from the supply all the way to the support. In fact, NVIDIA's senior director of automotive, Danny Shapiro, was quoted as saying, Elon is very focused on vertical integration and wanted to make his own chips. This came after NVIDIA's partnership with Tesla became stagnant just because Tesla wanted to move on and build their own things instead of using them. Furthermore, on their corporate level strategy, they are a dominant business firm. 93% of Tesla's revenue comes from these automobile sales. They still make about 7% as of June 30th, 2021 from their solar, their Powerwall, and their power packs. But a vast majority of Tesla's revenue is coming from their automobile sales, which is why they're a dominant business firm.
Okay, so for Tesla's international strategy, we're going to begin by talking about their overseas factories. Tesla's first overseas factory was the Netherlands assembly plant, where they just assembled Model S's, Model X's, based off of parts produced out of the Fremont, California factory. Tesla's first factory overseas that actually produced vehicles was Gigafactory 3 in Shanghai, where they produced Model 3 and Model Ys. Giga Shanghai is also Tesla's new export hub, which takes a lot of the pressure off the Fremont, California factory. It's important that Tesla operate out of China, as China's EV market is currently 4 times that of the US. And it also allows for reduced production costs by up to as much as 30%, not to mention the tax and tariff benefits of producing vehicles overseas rather than shipping completed vehicles from the US. Tesla's latest overseas factory is Gigafactory 4 out of Berlin, where they produce Model Ys. And once they're completely up and operational, it will produce up to 500,000 vehicles per year. Tesla utilizes a transnational strategy with 438 showrooms and galleries in 32 countries, 100 service centers in 35 countries, and 14,000 Tesla chargers around the globe, with that number growing every year. The benefits of this international strategy are it allows Tesla to directly compete with competition that already has a foothold in these regions, and the ability to directly engage in two of the largest growing EV markets, which is Europe and China. Like we discussed about producing vehicles in China allows for reduced production costs, also allows them to maintain vertical integration without a need to outsource, and allows for faster innovation and adjustment to regional market forces, rather than them trying to run everything from the US. The way they've implemented these business, corporate, and international strategies is they started out by maximizing efficiencies to continue to grow and develop economies of scale as they develop their EV line. They're moving from a focused differentiation of focusing on more expensive EV vehicles to a more of a differentiation strategy as they grow that line to include Cybertrucks, semi-trucks, more affordable vehicles. They utilize their strategic alliances to learn best practices from their competition and develop their vertical integration. And their vertical integration is critical to their business model, as Tesla is currently approximately 80% vertically integrated, whereas other vehicle manufacturers are about 80% outsourced. They also have a goal to have a gigafactory in each continent, which will just grow this transnational strategy. Thank you.